Okay, everybody. Good morning. We're back. It's Wednesday of the March Madness Wellness Week here at the World of Wellness, the James Weiner Memorial Wellness Week. And today, starting things off, is the one and only, the Gut Guy. Did you know that was your new name, Len? The
We
Gut
actually
Guy.
in
You
our
invented it. I thought it was a Jamie. Okay. The
yeah.
Gut Guy, Dr. Len Brantzowitz, one of our favorites. Dr. Len Brantzowitz, pharmacist, clinical nutritionist, functional medicine, pioneer in the industry. And, this morning, Len, on the kickoff, Jamie went into detail on your background, especially the year that you graduated from Duquesne University. So you are definitely a pioneer.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
my alma mater too, and you only beat me by a couple of years there. So welcome, Len.
Welcome, Joe. Thank you so much. First of all, let me just say, when we had our Tampa event a couple weeks ago, Jamie actually found a picture. I don't know where he got it of some little cartoon character called the Gut Guy, and he puts it on
Yes,
the
yes,
slide
I've
right
seen
next to
it.
my picture. And he said,
Yeah,
"Well, yeah, you've called yourself the Gut Guy. There's a picture of you back in school." So, yeah, it's been there. It's been there,
maybe can you
and
find it? Can you
I
find
guess
that
I got to
picture?
live with it now. It's still the foundation of everything that I do, and I got to say that. Can I say that again?
Right. Yes.
Every single patient that I see, it starts there. And
Right.
I brought a couple case studies today, some rather serious ones and some not so
Hmm.
serious ones. But I think it's a word that everybody needs to hear because Joe, if you were at a party with somebody, you're having one of your Italian feasts, and everybody's over your house and they're getting ready to eat, and you want to walk up to a guy saying, "How's your gut health?" They're going to probably either smack you or walk away. They're going to do one of those two things because it's not a warm and fuzzy. To talk about
No.
bowel function, to talk about bloating, gas, all of these different things, that's left to those quiet places in your house. You don't want to talk to anybody else about it. But most recently, about a week and a half ago, a new study came out that said, listen, to this, 80 to 90% of all Americans over the age of 20 have some form of
20.
gut dysfunction. That's 9 out of 10
That's young.
people. That's 9 out of 10 people.
Yeah. Uh,
So
the, I can't
what,
believe that. I mean, I mean, you could, almost understand that if it was over 50
yeah.
or, but at 20?
And see, that's one of the things I want to talk about today is, let's say you're listening now and you are in your 20s or your 30s, and you're starting your career, you're dealing with all the stuff that's going on from that guy that calls himself the president on down, all the different things that are happening in this country,
Yeah.
and you look at the price of gas, and you may have to drive 25 miles to work, and you're like, how am I going to survive this?
Right.
And I'm this is what I want to start with today, Joe. The word
Okay.
stress. The word stress.
Yes.
This has been another very common thread. And when you look at gut health, and you say, "Well, wait, I'm 32 years old. I'm in the investment business, or I'm in the real estate business, and yeah, there's stress. Yeah, there's financial impetus on my family and all these different things. But what's that have to do with me?" Well, two things. We have to understand a very important point here is that the brain oversees gut function. So call me the gut guy, also known as the brain guy, because if you
Aha.
don't look at one or the other, you're going to miss the point here. Now, when I was, again, just starting my practice in Pittsburgh, I was in Rochester, Pennsylvania, and I got invited to do a little piece of information in a study that was going on at McGee Women's Hospital. And it was pretty cool because they were talking about how do you support a woman during the course of her pregnancy. Well, the cool thing that happened, and this is back in the late 80s, they came up with this really high-tech Keller enhanced ultrasound for pregnant women. This is all going to tie together to gut health here in a minute, because when they did this and they were able to go all the way back to take a picture of the developing baby at 4 weeks, 4 weeks post conception, 4 weeks. And the
Wow.
first organ that was formed, of course, was the brain. The second
Yes.
organ that was formed was the gut, stomach. So there was this little teeny microscopic child being developed that had the brain gut link established at 4 weeks of age.
Wow.
So when you look at it and you say,
now, hey, Len, connected by the vagus nerve, right?
exactly, very good. And you know, and it's often overlooked. So when
Yes.
you look at being under stress, and you know, and we all handle it our own way. I like to pray. I like to open up the Bible. I like to be able to sit down and give it to Him, so that part of the stress can be taken from my shoulders. We all do with it a certain way. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk about a very good friend of mine whose way of de-stressing is to drink alcohol. And we're going to go into gut health and alcohol here in just a minute. But I want to stick with stress here for a second. So I'm under stress. I may be battling a little bit of depression, a little bit of anxiety, and those neurons in the brain are firing left and right. So the article that I have here in front of me that just came out this week saying that stress damages a certain movement center in the brain. Guess what? Where the vagus nerve connects to the gut. So stress damages that part of the brain. It's been documented. Stress seems to have a negative effect on all our learning and everything else. But from the point of I'm under high periods of stress, whether it's work related, family related, kids related, whatever, financial, we seem to want to have the beginning stages of gut health. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up first is because you have to understand and you have to do a self-assessment. Okay, you may not yet have gut issues. You may not yet have irritable bowel. You may say, just maybe once a month, or if I travel, I have constipation, diarrhea, all those words we don't like to talk about. But if you're under high periods of stress, we need to deal with it on a physiological basis, first and foremost, or gut health will eventually become a problem. This is where I have thrown in, and I use a lot of Calm Day. And Joe, I wanted you to just, if you could, if you don't mind, talking a little bit about Calm Day. You know, to me, one of the most effective de-stressors that I have in my whole set of supplements that I can use. I think it becomes a very important factor for anybody that may be just starting to have some gut issues, or maybe is under stress, or maybe having a hard time dealing with the price of gasoline right now. The investment in Calm Day may actually save your life.
Absolutely. Calm Day is an amazing formula because it has done that, Len. I have people I've worked with, a woman, for example, who she was working 2 jobs. She has a child who is autistic, who we have helped here tremendously with nutrients and DMG. But she was just stressed beyond compare. And she called me. She goes, help. I need help, because she was ready to go on antidepressants and she didn't want to. And we put her on Calm Day. And 2 days later, she called me back and said, this just saved my life. This literally saved my life. And here's why. Excuse me. Calm Day does the exact thing that differentiates functional nutrition and functional medicine from allopathic medicine. With allopathic medicine, what were they going to do? Put her on an antidepressant, right? A drug that is synthetic that will take the place of the natural functionality of the body. Over time, that functionality just declines to nothing, and you rely on the drug. With Calm Day, it enhances neurotransmitter production. It enhances those key chemical compounds like serotonin, like dopamine. It enhances your body's natural production of them through the use of GABA and L-theanine and the amino acids and B vitamins that are in there. So you give the body what it needs, the right nutrients, and it produces the right compounds, chemicals, neurotransmitters, hormones that you need. So with Calm Day, it starts your body working in the right path. The function starts working. You start creating these neurotransmitters, and they're created both in the lower half of the vagus nerve in the gut and in the upper half in the brain. So that connection is nonstop. And once that happens, the beauty of a functional nutrition protocol is over time, you need less of it, not more like you do with a drug.
Amen to that. Here's my case study on this. I have a dear friend, and I think most of us do have friends that are in the law enforcement part of our population.
Yeah.
He's a local policeman. And he came to me and he said, I'm 17 years into this and I'm thinking of retiring. I watch all these things that are going on with police around the country and I'm thinking I can take early retirement. And he said, but here's what's happening. Every day I wake up, I'm a little stressed going to work. And the sum of his stress was that, he's in a police car. He cruises around a lot. He does a lot of sitting outside, investigation work, et cetera, et cetera. But because of the stress, he developed irritable bowel syndrome. So he couldn't do his job properly. He's out in the middle of someplace where he has to be quiet, watching what's going on. And all of a sudden he has to find a restroom. So I said, here's where we're going to start. We're going to try to de-stress you first. First step, de-stress you. And when we did de-stress him, just that one little step early on, because he's a younger guy, he manages to have better gut health and moved on from that. So again, I think the point of reference here is de-stress yourself the best way you can. Take a good look at yourself. And if needed, a prep like Calm Day could actually turn around your gut health.
That's a great story because a little known fact, I'm going to bring up a little bit of my past here. Way back when, Len, I have a history in the martial arts, and I used to have a school, and most of the classes were at night. And I was trying to raise a family, and I needed extra income, so I took a job with a private investigative firm, as well. And they put me on this stakeout. It was a 12-hour shift, and you had to sit in a car and watch a house or the person that you were watching. If they came out, you followed them and go so on. But it was a 12-hour shift. And out of the 3 days I had that assignment, only once did I have to drive somewhere. I had to sit for 12 hours in a car. Now, you're not used to that, and your bodily functions are not used to that. So I can imagine what these guys go through when they do that on a regular basis. So is it the chicken or the egg thing? Is it the stress of the job causing the gastric distress, or is the standard American diet causing gastric distress that's complicated by the job? Both, right?
The sum of all the parts, exactly. But it's in the purpose of doing this show today about just tapping people on the shoulder, saying, don't discount the emotional side of gut issues.
Okay. Yes.
Story number 2.
Okay.
And this is one of the ones that are very difficult for people like me. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's a lot of new practitioners out there that if somebody called up and said, look, I was just diagnosed with Crohn's, there's a serious autoimmune gut issue. It can be life-threatening. And the intriguing thing is, would you help me? And the question that I gave back was, what were you offered by your gastroenterologist? And most times it's a biologic. You see the commercials on TV continually. Let's shut down your immune system. Let's shut it all the way down, stop that self-attack, and move on. Now, when I was presented with this last case, and this is a 48-year-old female that said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to shut down my immune system. And back in the day, not, let's say 2 years ago, I would have grabbed for GI Complete. Naturally, it's a good starting point. But recently, and that's what I like recently, when you all came up with this IgG prep, it was like a light bulb went off. So again, I'm ready to deal with what do I do with this Crohn's patient? Well, I'm going to put you on an anti-inflammatory diet. I'm going to look at what you're eating. I'm going to de-stress you. I'm going to do this. But a piece of information came out from the University of Alabama at Birmingham that said Crohn's patients have a specific imbalance in IgG antibodies. And those bad IgGs seem to cause the good bacteria in your gut to cause inflammation and cause all the Crohn's issues. So I read onto this article and they said, and again, this article did not know that IgG antibodies, and let's keep this in mind. These are not like a blood transfusion. These are put together in a very natural way to support normal immune globulin G antibodies in your system. So when we have something as serious as Crohn's, or let's put into the category of ulcerative colitis, it is phenomenal to start out with something like GI Complete. I agree. I think that's a great place to start. Clean the diet up, start soothing the system. What I tend to phase in right after that with this 48-year-old woman was adding, again, into the second, third, and fourth week, I added the IgG prep to the GI Complete. And I also added the Saccharomyces probiotic, opened up the capsules and put that right in there as well. Shake it up, drink it. I had them do it twice a day. Within 4 days, this woman called me and she said, for the first time, I didn't wake up with that gurgling sound. I didn't wake up with that crampiness in the morning. And I didn't wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and have to run into the restroom to have a bowel movement. 4 days. As time has gone on, and she said, can I just keep taking this kind of an approach? Is it safe enough? And I said, it certainly is. So the only difference that we did out here at month 2, 3, and 4 is we went back to a standardized probiotic from Nutritional Frontiers. We kept the Saccharomyces on the shelf for any kind of flare-ups because you can actually use them both together. But the real critical thing was, now that this IgG prep is available, it actually, when you put it in, it actually enhances good bacterial growth in the colon. That's what it does. So it's one thing to take a probiotic, and I have a lot of people saying, well, I take my probiotic, but is it living? Is it adhering? Is it doing good for you? If it's not, and we're running into these kind of situations, you throw in the IgGs, and I would recommend this, do it with a practitioner, go down to the wellness center, sit down with somebody. You don't want to just arbitrarily throw this at yourself. Talk to somebody. Sit down. Let's see what your stress levels are. Let's see what your food choices are. Let's see if we can do the GI Complete with the Saccharomyces, and then layer in the IgGs. And I'll tell you what, this track record with this 48-year-old woman was dramatic in the point where it started to turn around her Crohn's to the point where she's happy now. The doctor has not put any pressure on her. She made the decision to not do the biologic.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, Len, is the timing of this critical? 1 week in with GI Complete, the second or third week add in the IgG. Tell us more about the timing.
Yeah, that's a critical factor because when you have something like Crohn's, it's hard to pinpoint the exact site of where the inflammation is. It could be through the entire length of the colon, or I've even seen it in the stomach, that there's some dysfunction there. So when I go in with a week's worth of GI Complete, I want to hear what she says.
Okay.
Did it cause any stomach distress, or did the stomach feel better? Did it give you any kind of bloating or gas? Are we running into a battle down there in the gut? Do I need to put in digestive enzymes? Like I typically would use Cybezymes also with this kind of patient, help get the food in and out of the stomach in a quicker form. But I wanted to find out what's going on, because just listening to a patient over 7 to 10 days can give you an idea when you add in the GI Complete, what's cooking here? Where is that point? We're not diagnosing things. We're trying to make a decision here. When can I put in the IgG antibody kind of promotion along with the Saccharomyces to try to get the best outcome for the patient? So it's better to watchful wait, listen to the patient, and then look at putting it in and layering it in over a period of time.
So on that first 7 to 10 days, were you doing GI Complete once a day or twice a day?
I always will start out with it twice a day. I
Okay.
think it's much better served there. It's nice to do it once a day, but the body operates 24 hours a day. And most times when you have something as serious as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, it's waking you. So I
Yes.
need an early evening dose of it as well so that it gets a chance to work overnight as well.
Perfect. Good. Wow.
Here's the-
Powerful testimonial.
Here's the next one. I brought good ones. These aren't simple ones. These are the point I wanted to make is gut health plays a critical role in saving lives. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not making claims here, but it can make a situation life sustaining. Had a patient. This is going back about 6 months ago. Pregnant. That found out that the child had developed a liver issue. Okay. And it was like, okay, what can you do here? Now they were doing, again, watchful waiting. What's our concern here? Both for mom, like what was causing this? Did she have a past alcohol intake or whatever? But the intriguing thing that we found is when I dug into things, trying to find something, Northwestern University had studied this. This was actually more common than we thought. And what did they say? Treatment with IgGs.
Wow.
During pregnancy lessens the severity of a rare gastrointestinal gestational disease in children. Now, to me, that was like, okay, so, but what they're doing is blood transfusions of IgG if that woman really had serious issues. What I'm saying, if I have any sort of, maybe this is my second pregnancy, and I had difficulties in that first pregnancy, would I feel comfortable enough using GI Complete and some IgG treatment, at least during the first trimester, to make sure that the gut is doing what it needs to for the proper development of that child? So I'm going back in time with this. When the IgGs first came out, I was willing to take. Again, was there a risk factor? Not really. But we wanted to try to soothe that, because a lot of times you'll find during that first trimester a lot of nausea, vomiting, gut issues, and medicine over the years doesn't have much to treat that. Back in the day when I had my pharmacy, there was a drug called Bendectin, which was for first trimester nausea. Of course, it caused birth defects. So all of those drugs have now been pulling off the market. So a woman doesn't have much choice here. A little bit of ginger tea and just suffer. Well,
and then the medical industry has everyone so scared to do anything natural with someone who's pregnant, when that should be the first course of action. Something natural, something that's, of the earth, of the body. IgGs are a component of colostrum, are they not?
Exactly.
Right. So they have us so scared to death if the person's pregnant, don't do, they don't want them to eat for crying out loud. But, this is safe for someone in their first trimester, both products, GI Complete and IgG.
Now, again, when Jamie first told me, and you all told me about this prep coming around, it was like, it lit a light bulb in me to say that there's got to be a use other than just basic gut support there for this.
Okay.
So again, as I have an actual file that I put together in IgG antibodies, and one of those ones was dealing with kids that are super sensitive, for which you're getting an EpiPen. Okay, think about this. How many children have a nut allergy? How many kids have, go down the list of all the different allergies a child would have. He's 6, 7, 8 years old, and mom has to run to the pharmacy and always keep an in-date EpiPen on hand. Study came out that said what happens when they have that reaction is an anaphylactic shock that takes place, but they found out that the proper use of IgGs in stimulating see, you have to understand, in the human body, you have IgGs that are inflammatory, you have the ones that are supportive. if you enhance the supportive part of this, which again keeps the gut health proper, you can reduce the risks of anaphylactic shock and allergy reactivity by 30 to 40%. So think about this. Is it safe enough to give to an adolescent? Yeah, it is. So if we have a child out there that mom has to sit on edge all the time because we never know if they're going out to a party and they're allergic to peanuts, and the family they went to didn't know that, and they put some cookies out that had some peanuts in it, and child started to have difficulty breathing, and we had to use the EpiPen. Why not be supportive? Do a gut assessment, support that child's gut health, reduce his reactivity. It's not going to make it go away entirely. Don't take me wrong on this. But if you have a child that's in that world, this is another one where you can actually make an impact on that child and have him live at least a semi-normal life and not have to worry all the time about what they're eating.
Wow. Powerful stuff, man. Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is something, we've been in this industry a long, long time, and here comes along a product that is life-changing for people. It just never ceases to amaze me how much good we can do on a natural basis just by producing and making these all-natural formulations available for everybody. And not to mention the fact that, they taste great. They're easy to take. The IgG comes in 2 flavors, just like the GI Complete. So you pair them up, raspberry, raspberry, lemon, lime. I mean, it doesn't get any easier, for compliance, because that's a huge issue as well, right?
Yeah. Now, here's my next case study.
Okay.
In Georgia, we were right down the street from one of the local high schools. And at that high school, I was approached by the coach of the girls' track team. Because there was a very common problem with these 16, 17-year-old girls that were running marathons, cross country.
Yes.
What was that problem? Gut health on the other side. They couldn't maintain their endurance because the day after, day before, in anticipation of, they were running into gut problems. A lot of these girls had such serious gut health that maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 6 miles into a run, they had to stop and look for a restroom. So again, what we did, and this was intriguing. You're going to like this one, Joe. They were looking for a recovery drink. Okay. So they'd come in with those really big orange containers, that they would be using, whatever, Gatorade or something.
Yeah, of course.
We said, we want something that's a little bit more natural. So we said, let's do a trial, and we mixed up the Pro Oranges. Okay. Now, this is thinking outside the box a little bit, and they said, here's what we're going to do. So we used 3 containers of the orange in one of those big containers filled with water. And I used an entire container of GI Complete. Okay. Stirred it in there, and they never even knew what they were doing. There was no problem. I cleared it with a coach, and the track team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, because of this, they won all kind of awards. But the instances that they were having of kids complaining went down by 50%. Okay. Now, from that point on, they had to get, of course, they wanted to get the clearance from the parents that this was okay to do, and they did. There were certain ones. So then we had the regular orange, and then we had the one with a little bit of gut health. But you know what? It worked. And that wasn't very much. That was just a diluted solution that made it different in the longevity and the running ability. Now, I'm going to say this too. The orange enhanced the recovery time dramatically. So again, this gets back to gut health. Gut health, young adolescents that you normally don't think about with gut health. If you enhance their gut health, their recovery time post that run, 10 times better, 20 times better. Got them recovered so that they didn't cramp, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you can put this into the category that says, if you have a child, there are tools out there. That orange drink, I'm telling you, needs to be looked at for almost every family that has any kids in sports.
Yeah.
And again, it's not going to hurt to add a probiotic or a little GI Complete to that at home and help your child do better.
Wow. You know, a 50% change, you know, they accept 10% as statistically significant. 10% change. This is 50% change.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Better than
Yeah.
any
And I
pharmaceutical.
had no idea we were going to talk about oranges today. So you just
I
brought a whole new.
it's just, but see, it all wraps in together. And let me just say this again. In my career, you go back to look at the product lines that I carried in my office. Back in the late '80s, there wasn't much out there. There was a couple of local
Right.
companies. We all know Douglas Labs and a couple of those.
Yeah.
But over the course of time, you get so frustrated with certain companies. There's nothing wrong with these other companies. But when I had the opportunity to find somebody that had a full spectrum of supplements available, made in the USA, that can give me the quality that I need. I had one of my staff members call and is taking the Tonin Lean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Called me up out of left field one evening and says, I want to know about the safflower oil extract in there. Is it organically grown, et cetera? And it's like, where did you get this? So I had to, you make a call and you find out that, Nutritional Frontiers has these C of A, certificate of authenticity and accuracy of all their preps. And yeah, they only use the organic forms to give somebody the confidence to know that this isn't just thrown together. This is done with science, and the preps there are fabulous.
And that's a very important point, Len, because the part I think that's most important is that you could make a phone call and get the C of A. Right. You can't do that at a lot of even professional companies, let alone, retail shelves, box stores, that kind of thing. Try to go in one of those stores and say, pick up a product off the shelf and say, can I get a certificate of analysis on this? And then they probably won't even know what you're asking for to begin with, but it's just not possible to be done. So that is a very important point. And that is something that, everybody says they have good quality, right? Jamie says this all the time, but can you back it up? Right. Can you prove it? Right? So awesome. Awesome.
I noticed one of the text messages that we got here from, I believe it's somebody in New York City. She talked about life-threatening food allergies. And this gets into that peanut talk that we had in supporting gut health, and this goes into the category of not just those kind of, shock issues, but even some of the gluten things, where somebody may have celiac disease. And oftentimes when you're out at a restaurant or out with friends that said, yeah, I have the gluten-free option, but it's really not fully gluten-free and it may cause you some distress. So again, when you look at that combination prep, the IgG and the GI Complete, it's not going to make celiacs go away, but it can certainly stabilize celiacs so that it puts up a defensive shield just in case. Now, if I had somebody that has celiacs, I really like Cybezymes. I really do. I know it's not for everybody, but I will tell you that if you're sensitive to and you have food allergies and maybe a little bit of a gluten intolerance, having a digestive enzyme as your friend to start out with at the top of the digestive process can always help. Just in case something snuck through in those foods, help you get it in and out of the stomach in a better way so that the body can then process it and it doesn't cause you any problems.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you mentioned Cybezyme even earlier in our talk. And it is effective because it does have that one component, the DPP4, that actually helps the body process gluten. Now, it won't alleviate an allergy or anything like that, but it will help you process that gluten, especially if you're going gluten-free and some sneaks through, like you said, this will help process it. It's a full spectrum digestive enzyme. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And that's a key part of that I don't think we talk about enough.
Next, let's go down. It's like, here, full honesty here. I didn't know what we were talking about today, honestly. Jamie texted me and says, you're going on at 9:00 tomorrow. And I go, okay. But it's like right here in front of me, everything that I have in my desk, all studies here, every one of them has some link to gut health. So it's not like I just
That's because you're the gut guy.
It's the gut guy. It gets put to me. Now, here, this one just came out yesterday, and I find this intriguing. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, and this isn't a case study, this is actually a study, and I'm 38, I'm 48, I'm 58, whatever, and I have all kind of sensitivities, and I get chronic constipation, occasional diarrhea, some crampiness, etc. And I'm listening to you, and I'm going to get started on the GI Complete, and I'm going to get started eventually on the IgG. Is there any way to enhance that and make it work even quicker?
Uh-oh.
This is a question. So a study came out, University of Massachusetts' Amherst, that said, when we have gut health issues, you need to get one of those watches that measures your steps because there's a magic number. So they did a study on 50,000 people from 4 continents wearing those little Apple watches to keep track of your steps. And they found the magic number of steps. You know, I think a lot of people use that 10,000 if I want to keep my weight down and longevity. Yeah. But they basically said, if you can hit 7,000 steps a day for anybody middle-aged or older, you'll enhance gut health. Because you're picking up the metabolism. You're actually helping the healing process go in the human body. You're moving more oxygen, and you're taking the gut to a new place. So if you're having serious issues, and maybe I'm afraid to go out and keep track of get one of those watches. Try to hit 7,000 steps a day, and you can start to turn around your gut health.
Now, that doesn't have to be consecutive, does it?
No, not at all.
Okay, so throughout the day. Because even the phones will track them too. You don't even need the watch. The phone tracks your steps too, if it's on you when you're walking. True. It has to be on you when you're walking for that to happen. Yeah.
How much time do we have left here, Joe?
We're good. We got the good, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. I got a couple more that I really want to dwell on. I have another friend of mine, actually one of my golf buddies, whose ringtone is, people say I have a drinking problem, but I have no problem drinking. You ever hear that country western song? That's his ringtone.
You got me on that one. I'm not a big country western fan.
You're a bad influence on me if your ringtone says you have a drinking problem, and it's like, well, he lives on Prilosec. Okay.
Oh, like Larry the Cable Guy. Yeah.
He can't really get beyond bloating, gas. He has to watch what he's eating. And I watched his diet, and he tended to go toward more simplistic foods. He couldn't eat a salad. He was suffering, and it was like, okay, I had to approach this correctly, because this guy, his whole family tree, his wife included, like to drink. They like to drink. And I said, you know what? You're shortening your life. I understand that. There was a couple articles that came out that said, a cocktail a day could actually cause you to live longer. It actually did some good. But the way you're doing it, I'm concerned with this. Research has showed the link between drinking like you do and brain health. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, more alcohol, less brain. More alcohol, less brain volume. And guess which part of the brain is affected the most? The connection of the vagus nerve to the stomach.
Wow.
So again, if I'm doing a lot of drinking, or somebody that says, I really don't drink, I just have 4 beers every night. Well, guess what? You're going to start losing brain volume, which again, we can go to the brain support preps. I'm not using that as something, that is going to give you an excuse to drink. But we have to understand that there is a direct link here between excesses on a daily basis and dealing with the gut health. So again, started him out on GI, the typical protocol, GI Complete. In fact, I went to the capsules with him. This is one of those cases where I went to the GI Complete capsules, just for a convenience sake. And I had him do initially 5 capsules with each meal. So I used it as a combination, sort of kind of a digestive enzyme as well. So we went in with the GI Complete capsules at each meal, and I went with a high dose probiotic In fact, the standardized Frontier Biotics 2, I use 2 in the morning, 2 with lunch, 2 with dinner, 2 at bedtime.
Wow.
4 capsules a day. And I did that for a period of 10 to 14 days. Now, this is the intriguing thing. He says, since I started doing that, I had less desire to drink. I thought that was intriguing. So he just came back yesterday from his doctors, and naturally they did his blood work and said his liver enzymes are up. So I have him on Live Clear right now. We have him on, okay, well, let's get the liver under control so that the brain can recognize that and I can solve the gut issue. So again, for somebody that is, I'm not going to call an alcoholic, but really self-destructing and dealing with stress the wrong way. And if you start out even supporting gut health, you can make a difference in a person. In this case, you could actually help turn somebody around, do the gut health. And this is one of those situations. And I don't know really why I went to the capsules. I just felt a little more comfortable. He was one that didn't like to mix things up, because I could see him getting the powder and putting it into an old fashioned or something, trying to get GI complete in that way. So I said, let's just do it as capsules. And I'll tell you what, it's working. We're in the early stages here, and I'm going to actually see him later today. And I think we can turn around his gut health. And I actually gave him yesterday. I walked over to his house last night, and I had 2 or 3 sample bottles of Probzyme.
You made a house call then?
House call yesterday. Brought him over 2 bottles of the little sample bottles of Probzymes. And if you've never tried Probzymes, go get a sample bottle and try it. And I said, here's what I want you to do. Forget that Prilosec if you can, and let's start using these things and let the GI Complete start working properly. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about Probzymes? I mean, it's been around. They've been one of the top sellers, and they're phenomenal.
It was the flagship first product brought in. First custom formula that was ever done by Nutritional Frontiers was Probzyme. So, and it was just the one flavor back then, and now there's 3 different flavors. Pick the one you want. It has such a broad spectrum of use. You can use it to get in some probiotics. You can use it to get enzymes with every meal. You can use it on a flare-up of acid reflux. You can use it before bed to make sure that you're keeping everything in check. It's so versatile, and you can use it with kids. If they can chew, they can do Probzyme. Amen. But I want to ask you something about the liver enzymes you mentioned. Sure. It kills me that when people go to their doctors and get their blood work done and their liver enzymes are up, but they don't ever question the cause, which is usually the pharmaceuticals that the doctors are prescribing.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And even the over-the-counter PPIs will drive up your enzymes because the liver can't process it.
Exactly right. So again, your point's very well taken. Asking the question why. What am I doing in my lifestyle? That's where I really like to tell people to journal for me. Write down anything that's going on. Took the kids to soccer practice, went over here, had, a little bit of an issue. We ate at McDonald's today and I suffered tonight. Give me the information so that we know how we can make the suggestions to make the corrections. Bottom line. Yep. And eat Italian food all the time.
Yeah.
What I need, by the way, before we get off the air today, I got one more study, which I think.
Yeah, let's go. You got time. We got time.
I need your recipe for pasta risotto. Okay. Oh. I told my wife I wanted to make it, and she says, "Well, you better get a good recipe and ask Joe for that." So.
All right, no problem.
All right.
I'll tell you what else. You need my. Do you have a good one for Minestra too?
No.
Minestra. You know what Minestra is? Minestra is a greens stew. Okay, so it's like it's a big pot dish, and I use the base is obviously olive oil and garlic, and then I use kale, Swiss chard, and collard. Usually, maybe throw some broccoli in too, and then I'll season it and add maybe some chicken sausage to give it a little flavor, and add a lot of little crushed red pepper. Keep the garlic going. And you simmer all those greens down. You can use a little chicken broth too, okay, for some flavor. But they simmer down, and then they mix with all those flavors, and you serve that in a bowl and on a cool rainy day, and it is going to tighten you up. Great.
That sounds like growing up. I was raised by my Italian grandmother in Carnegie,
Uh-huh.
Pennsylvania, until I was
Uh-huh.
6. And the intriguing thing is, for the weekends, like once every other week, she would make this thing called bread soup, or she had this enormous aluminum, I guess, pot where I would
Uh-huh.
watch her. She would save all the leftover bread that went stale, layer that down, layer of
Huh.
cabbage, layer of kale, bread, layer of sausages,
Oh my God.
bread,
Yes.
layer of kale, and top it off with cabbage. And then at the very top, all the homemade grated Italian cheeses, the Romanos, etc., and just put it on and bake it for like 4 hours. And it would just
Mm.
compress down. We would all sit around the table with a fork and a knife, put that in the middle of the table, and just eat it. Now, was it good
Right.
for you? I don't know, but it was certainly.
Sure
I remember
was. A
tasting
lot of
really.
greens in there. A lot of good stuff, Len. I like that. I'm going to steal that recipe.
Last article.
Okay, what's your next
Last one.
study? We got time for one more.
Age may be a number, but it's a number that carries unwanted side effects from brittle bones to weaker muscles to increased risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer. Now scientists have shown they can safely and effectively reverse the aging process, at least in mice. This is a study that came out March 7th, 2 days ago, that basically said, we know that age is something, only God knows how long we're going to be on this earth. And we all want to fight that aging thing and the sagging muscles and all these different things and looking in the mirror, etc. But the bottom line of this article was they said when we took these mice that were being raised and we enhanced, and they used a lot of different methodologies to enhance the absorption of nutrients. They called it the absorption of micronutrients. They didn't even go into details. They used something called a Yamanaka factor, which is some proprietary issue that they used. But the bottom line was, by increasing gut health in these mice, they increased their longevity by 20 to 30%. Now, could that be extrapolated? Now, this is, again, at the end of the day, they said they wanted to bring resilient and function back to older cells so that they were more resistant to stress, injury, and disease. This study showed that at least in mice, there's a path of gut health that can achieve just that. You're concerned about it? I don't really have a problem with somebody. Now, my wife loves GI Complete. She's been us her 5th month where she has it every day. And you can do that. Is it going to make sure that you live longer? I wish I could say that, but I'll tell you what, it's going to increase your odds of fighting serious disease and problems on the road.
Well, I'll add something to that, Len. I think it will help with longevity, and here's why. One of the nutrients, the ingredients, zinc carnosine.
Yep.
Right? That's a combination of zinc and L-carnosine. L-carnosine has been studied on its own, and it has been proven to extend the life of your cells. So, yes, can that help with longevity? Absolutely.
Amen. So do your gut health, do your assessment, look at your stress, look at these preps, and you can make yourself healthier. Bottom line.
Wow. Great stuff, as always. Hey, you're coming back with us again at 12, right?
12 o'clock, we're gonna do a roundtable, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I'll be back.
All right. Thanks, Len. Dr. Len Brancovitz, everybody. The gut guy. He's so much more than that. But you know what? You got to have a moniker, and now you got one, Len.
There you go. Take care, Joe. See you at noon.
Always a pleasure. Talk to you later. Wait. Read some comments. Okay.
Teresa and a question from Renee.
Okay, so Teresa says, haven't tried the Pro Oranges, but have tried the Pro Purples and the Pro Greens with much success. We'll be trying the Pro Oranges now without a doubt. Enjoyed hearing about the 7,000 steps to improve the gut. Didn't know this, and I'm on the treadmill and stationary bike aside from doing weight machines twice a week. This will need to increase. Thanks for the information. Appreciate hearing all the studies. See, that's the thing, Len. We can talk about nutrients all we want, but when you bring these real life studies in and these real life cases that you've worked on, it makes all the difference in the world. One more from Renee Hinton. Does gut health have anything to do with the way my feet hurt, sweat, and smell?
Let me just say this. You know, I haven't done a scientific study on this, but I have talked to 4 or 5 people. Now, I'm just going to go to the nth degree of this thing. You go to the bathroom, you have a bowel movement. If you're doing good gut health, guess what? It doesn't have to need an air freshener.
Right.
Honestly, if you're absorbing your nutrients properly, having a bowel movement should not be a dramatic effect. Now, is it going to make your body sweat exorbitantly? Typically when you see something like this, where your feet are sweating and smelling, there's another issue, the hyperhidrosis thing. But I will tell you that I could go out on a limb and say, if you did proper gut health, I would be really curious to see, and I haven't done a study on this one, but I bet you that if it's done intensely, and this is another case where I'd probably use the capsules, 2 or 3 capsules, or maybe 2 capsules with each meal, and do that for a 30-day period and really see if it does make a difference. And there's every reason in the world to think it might.
And that's worth trying, because look, everything that comes out through the skin originates in the gut.
Right.
So absolutely, I don't see why it wouldn't make a difference. But yes, Renee, I think you should try the GI Complete. Whether you do the capsules or the powder, that's your choice, but you should try it. And I think you'll definitely, of course, look, lifestyle changes, diet, everything, making sure you're getting good bacteria, making sure you're getting good enzymes. So like Dr. Len said, you got to be able to assimilate those nutrients. Micronutrients have to get into the cells. So it's a full process. It's not a pill for an ill. All right, let's make that real clear. But I think we can get on the right track and help you.
There's an old-time remedy for that, and I don't know that it's still around, but Renee, you might want to look this up. It was called acid mantle cream. Acid mantle cream, that said part of the sweating issue, part of the odor issue has to deal with an acid-alkaline imbalance in the skin itself. And acid mantle was just used topically for like 10 to 15 days, and it tend to reset that. So you might want to just call around, see if any of the local pharmacies, independent pharmacies, might still have that, or that it could actually be made in a compounding pharmacy.
Great information. Thanks, Len. Thanks, Renee. Hope we
I will
help you
see
out.
you at noon.
Okay, Len. Thanks, buddy. See you soon.
Take care now. Bye-bye.